All praises to the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, double honors to the elders of Israel who will well. Shalom to the for elect. Lord willing, this video is edifying. I've wanted to do this video for a while. It's this guy here. I don't know whether or not this is his channel, but it's quite an informative video where he talks about the origins of Islam. So I'll just play this quick and just run through a couple scriptures as we go along.
And they'll be shocked to hear this and they'll say you're lying. A leading Islamic scholar, Fred McGraw-Donner, notice what he says. At the center of the town was the shrine called the Kaaba, a large cubical building with a sacred black stone affixed in one corner. That was the sanctuary to the pagan god Hubal. What are some of the pagan practices that Muhammad adopted? This is
what he said is Hubal, right? Let's see here. He said Fred McGraw-Donner and Hubal are related through their connection to the origins of Islam and the pre-Islamic Arabian religion. Donner is a prominent scholar specializing in early Islam and Islamic history. Hubal was a major deity in pre-Islamic Arabia, known as the moon god. Now, anyone who's halfway familiar with Islam knows what. Oh, there you go. It says he's the moon god, right? And this is symbolic of the moon. So yeah, that pretty much checks. It says known as the moon god, Donner's work often involves examining the historical context and evolution of Islam, including the influence of pre-Islamic religious beliefs and practices, such as the worship of Hubal. Let's see. So Hubal, the chief god in pre-Islamic Arabia, identifies as a moon god. His statue was housed in the Kaaba, the sacred shrine in Mecca. So his statue is meant to be inside the Kaaba. I don't know the veracity of these claims, right? But that's what he's saying. With the rise of Islam, Hubal's worship was outlawed and his statue was destroyed. So I'm assuming it was inside and then destroyed his statue, which was inside the Kaaba. He continues to be a significant figure in Islamic history and folklore, sometimes portrayed as a symbol for paganism. It says Donner's work sheds light on the historical context in which Hubal was worshipped and the influence of pre-Islamic religious practices on the early development of Islam. So essentially, these came out of the roots of paganism. Same thing with Christianity. By studying the role of Hubal and other deities in pre-Islamic Arabia, Donner helps to understand the broader religious landscape that shaped the origins of Islam. So the worship of Hubal, right, shaped the origin of Islam, which is the moon god. It says in pre-Islamic Arabia, Hubal was a deity particularly worshipped by the, I'm gonna butcher this probably, Quraysh tribe in Mecca, right, who viewed him as a moon god and a figure associated with divination. His idol was located in the Kaaba and was the center of rituals. What's a ritual? I don't know. Maybe walking around in circles around a giant rock is a ritual. And then kissing the face of it. Let's see let's see if I can get a picture of the Kaaba stone, right? Because you're meant to place your face in there, which, you know, the Bible's talking about is symbolic of a vagina, and even the word Kaaba, the brother says it goes back to vagina, you know, a woman's a woman's private parts. When I looked into the Hebrew word of it, and it came up with to bury, right? So I've not, you know, I believe the brother when he says it refers to pom pom, as he said, but yeah, I have to do more of a diligent look into that. But yeah, I believe the brother when he says it's symbolic of a woman's vagina, right? It says his idol was located in the Kaaba and was center of rituals including casting arrows for guidance. And just keep an eye on this casting arrows for guidance, right? Because it's very significant. When I play the video again, after the conquest of Mecca by Muhammad, Hubal's idol, along with other gods, was destroyed. Hubal was considered a moon god, a common theme in ancient Arabia, polytheism. His idol was a prominent feature within the Kaaba, a sacred site in Mecca. Rituals involving casting arrows before Hubal's idol were used for seeking guidance and making decisions. Muhammad's conquest of Mecca in 630 CE led to the destruction of Hubal's idol and other idols in the Kaaba. So the Kaaba stone was was symbolic or a symbolism for paganism, pretty much. Some scholars suggest that Hubal may have been a precursor to the concept of the high god Allah, later embraced by Islam. It's like polytheism, where they essentially went from worshipping these other gods to now superimposing these gods on Christianity and then carrying on with their worship. When you think of other things such as Easter, worshiping Nimrod at Christmas, and all these other mad practices like eating the flesh and drinking the blood and the communion and all of this. None of this stuff is scriptural. Let me just get a scripture quick, because I don't want to. Let me see. No. Salakia. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Now this is symbolic of the stone, and I'll carry on playing this.
They would kiss the black stone embedded in the wall of the Kaaba, which was probably a meteorite that had once hurled to the ground. Oh, so wait, the pagans before Muhammad used to kiss the black stone and Muhammad adopted it? Now we know why the pagans did it. Why is Muhammad doing it? Then she says in that same source, officially the shrine was dedicated to Hubal, an Nabatean deity, and there was 360 idols arranged around the Kaaba, probably representing the days of the year. Karen Armstrong, you are not hostile to Islam. You're very friendly to Islam and you bend over backwards to appease Muslims. And Muslims even invite you to lecture in their meetings and they praise your books. And you admit that the shrine was officially dedicated to Hubal? Then who is Allah? If the Kaaba is the shrine of Allah, but it's the shrine of Hubal, and you can't have a shrine for more than one God, the necessary logical inference and conclusion, Allah was the name of Hubal, Hubal was the name of Allah. How do you get around it? That's the mastermind of Satan. Allah was the name for Hubal. Hubal is Baal. But in order to mislead and deceive people from realizing that they're worshiping the god Baal, he raised up Muhammad, the son of Satan, this Antichrist, and got Muhammad to disassociate Allah from Hubal, so that the connection between Hubal and Allah was lost, so that you wouldn't see that Allah was simply Baal, in order to then deceive people into Baal worship, but disguising it as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Islam is nothing more than revamped Baal worship, and Baal was the chief competitor to Jehovah, and he's still the chief competitor to Jehovah under the guise of Islam. And even here, F.E. Peters, in his book, Hajj, this Muslim historian says, Amr ibn Luhay brought with him to Mecca an idol called Hubal from the land of Hit in Mesopotamia. Hubal was one of the Quraysh's greatest idols, so he set it up at the well inside the Kaaba and ordered the people to worship it. Thus, a man coming back from a journey would visit it and circumambulate the house before going to his family and would shave his hair before it, all of which Muslims do. Circumambulate the Kaaba and shave their heads. Here, the source is saying the pagans were doing that before Muhammad. Now, let me read Ibn Kathir. Are you ready now for this story? The biography of Muhammad, the Prophet, by Ibn Kathir. Volume 1, pages 125, 126. Ibn Ishaq stated, it is claimed that when Abdul Muttalib received such opposition from Quraysh over the digging of Zamzam, he vowed that if 10 sons were born to him, who grew up and protected him, he would sacrifice one of them for the God at the Kaaba. So notice his vow. If I have 10 sons, I will sacrifice one of them for God at Kaaba. Do you remember what the person said earlier? Oh yeah, but Baal demanded human sacrifice. Did you just catch it? Abdul Muttalib promised that if Allah gave him 10 sons, he would sacrifice one of his sons, a human sacrifice to Allah. Baal demanded human sacrifice. Allah demands human sacrifice. Let's see who's going to see this. Eventually, he had 10 sons grown up whom he knew would give him protection. Their names were Al Harith, Al Zubair, Hajl, Dirar, Al Muqawwim, Abu Lahib, Al Abbas, Hamza, Abu Talib, and Abdullah. He assembled them and told them of his vow and asked them to honor his pledge to God Almighty, Allah Azwajal, and all glorious is He. This is in Arabic, it's Allah. God in English, but Arabic Allah. So he vowed to Allah. Okay. They obeyed and asked him what he wanted them to do. He asked each of them to take an arrow, write his name on it, and return to him. Now watch this. Remember, he's going to go to Allah and sacrifice. Allah. They did so and went with him inside the Kaaba to the site of their god Hubal, where there was the well in which offerings to the Kaaba would be placed. There, near Hubal, were 7 arrows which they would use for divining a judgment over some matter of consequence, a question of blood money, kinship, or the like. They would come to Hubal to seek a resolution, accepting whatever they were ordered to do or to refrain from. Guys, can you help me understand? If you made the vow to Allah, why are you going to the idol Hubal? And why did Ibn Kathir say that's your God? The God of Muhammad's family, the God of his grandfather, and his father was Hubal. It goes on to say that the lot fell on Abdullah, Muhammad's father. So Hubal wanted Abdullah to be killed. But then the Quraysh said, no, don't kill him. Make a deal with your God to see if he'll take camels in place. Now watch here. They left for Medina, where they found a diviner whose name was Sajah. So they went to a witch to ask the witch, how can we appease Allah? How can I appease Allah so I don't kill Abdullah? Why would you go to a witch, a soothsayer, to tell you how to appease Allah? Are you catching this? I don't know if it's sinking in. What kind of God is Allah that would allow Abdul Muttalib to go to a soothsayer, a witch, a kahina, one who contacts spirits, to tell him how to appease Allah? And this is Ibn Kathir, one of the greatest.
Let me just get into scripture quick. This is Exodus 22 and 18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Right? So when you go into the story of Saul and a witch of Endor, you know, when Samuel died, he actually went to a witch to provide divination for him, right? Now, let's see where he is. Because initially the woman didn't even want to divine for Saul. Said the woman said unto him, this is chapter 9. So this is First Samuel chapter 28 verse 9, right? And the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits, and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life to cause me to die? So he had killed all the witches, and she was like, well, you're trying to set me up because you killed all of them, and now you're trying to get me to expose myself to kill me. And Saul sware to her by the Lord, saying, as the Lord liveth, there shall be no punishment happen to thee for this thing. So he swore by the Lord, keeping in mind that the Lord told him that he's supposed to kill all the divinators and all the witches and all the wizards. So he swore by the Lord, who told him to kill witches, right, that he wouldn't kill her. So he's literally going against the Lord but swearing to the Lord at the same time. And when the woman saw Samuel, I'm going a bit. Then said the woman, whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. Now, when Samuel came, he was pissed off. But when you go into witchcraft, it says a witch is a person often historically depicted as a woman who is believed to possess and utilize magical powers, often with focus on spells. And when you go into let's see, because I'm using, you know, the little AI, Alan Iverson. It says, do witches deal with spirits? Well, I'll spell that wrong, but yeah, it says many witches, particularly nature witches, interact with spirits associated with nature, like the genius Loki, the spirit of a place or local nature spirits. Demons, so they commune with demons. Ancestral spirits, these are demons that pretend to be your ancestors, right? Well, they can actually call forth people who are dead, right? But at the end of the day, most of the time, well, I don't know. I don't practice witchcraft, But I'm assuming, sometimes it's a demon pretending to be your ancestor. In that circumstance where that witch called up her Samuel's spirit, it was Samuel. But at the end of the day, if the Lord didn't allow it, it wouldn't have happened. But he pretty much did it so that Saul could condemn himself. It says, while some historical accounts suggest witches may have communed with demons or the devil, modern practitioners have diverse views on working with such entities, but they're still communing with spirits who are demons, right? It says no spirit work. It's also important to note that many witches and practitioners of witchcraft do not work with spirits at all. Their focus may be on other aspects of the craft, such as herbalism, divination, or ritual magic. Now, if you know about divination, you're dealing with demons. So essentially, a witch is just dealing with demons. That's what a witch is.
Scholars saying this. So they left for Medina, where they found the diviner whose name was Sajah, as Yunus bin Bukayr reported from Ibn Ishaq, that was at Khaybar. They rode off again and went to her and sought her advice. Abdul Muttalib telling her of the whole problem regarding him and his son. She told him, leave me today until my attendant spirit comes and I can ask him. Wow. So not only do you go to a witch, a soothsayer, she says, wait, my spirit will show up. In other words, a demon, a Satan. And that demon and Satan will tell you how to ransom your son Abdullah. And Allah is going to accept it. Allah is going to accept it, folks. Allah is going to allow Abdul Muttalib to go to a witch, a soothsayer, and allow an evil spirit, a demon, a spirit, to tell her how to appease Allah, and Allah is going to be okay with it. Now, what would the true God, Jehovah, Yahweh do? If an Israelite went looking for a witch and took the advice of the spirit that inspired that witch to appease Jehovah, what would God do, the true God do? Okay, now watch, let's keep going. They left her and Abdul Muttalib prayed to Allah. So he's praying to Allah. Next day, they went back to her and she informed them that she had a message. How much is the blood money you prescribe? She asked, 10 camels. Okay, and then they says, okay, go back and present your man as an offering and do the same with 10 camels. Then cast arrows to decide between him and them. If the dividing arrows point to him, then add to the number of camels until your God is satisfied. Keep doing this deviating of arrows until it points to the camels, not your son. Okay? And once it points to the camels, then you know that's how many camels you sacrifice to ransom your son Abdullah from being murdered. If it points to the camels, then sacrifice them in his place. That way you will please your God and save your man. So they went back to Mecca. When they had agreed to do so, as she had said, Abdul Muttalib said prayers to God, Allah. Then they offered up Abdullah and the 10 camels as sacrifice and cast the arrow. At that point, the men of Quraysh told Abdul Muttalib, who was standing near Hubal, praying to Allah, it's all over. Your God is pleased, O Abdul Muttalib. Wait, earlier it says their God was Hubal, and it says as he's praying to Allah, he's before the statue of Hubal. At this point, the men of Quraysh told Abdul Muttalib, who was standing near Hubal, praying to Allah. Arabic is Allah, a God. It's all over. Your God is pleased, O Abdul Muttalib. But wait, who's this God? Is it Allah or Hubal? Because earlier Ibn Kathir told us this. They did so and went with them inside the Kaaba to the site of their God Hubal. Hold on. Abdul Muttalib prays to Allah by standing in front of the idol Hubal. Hubal is said to be his God and the God of his family. But then the Quraysh said, it's all over, your God is pleased, O Abdul Muttalib. So I'm really confused. If his God is Hubal and he's praying to Allah, but he's shuffling arrows to the statue Hubal, and he's before the statue of Hubal praying to Allah, are you trying to convince me that Hubal is not Allah, Allah is not Hubal? Why does Allah accept Abdul Muttalib going to a soothsayer witch? And why does Allah accept a demon telling that witch soothsayer how to appease Allah? And why is Abdul Muttalib going before the statue Hubal and shuffling arrows and praying to Allah at the statue of Hubal? And if Allah is his God, why did Ibn Kathir say Hubal is his God? What's going on here? What's the conclusion? Who is Allah truly? He is Baal. And Baal is another name of Satan. What more proof do you guys need from the Muslim sources when you combine them together that Islam is nothing more than Baal worship repackaged by Satan through his man Muhammad in order to entice the people of God today away from the worship of Jehovah like Baal did during the Old Testament period? How many of you are overwhelmed and shocked by the evidence? And how many of you are now convinced Islam is nothing more than Baal worship repackaged by Satan? I'm not saying Muslims knowingly worship the false god Baal. If you're familiar with the Old Testament, if you're familiar with the Hebrew scriptures, you will note that the main competitor for the worship and allegiance of the Israelites was the false god Baal. All throughout the Old Testament, you'll find God chastening, disciplining, rebuking, punishing, even exiling his people for their habitual habit of turning to the false god Baal, B-A-A-L, right? The name Baal also pops up in the New Testament under the name Beelzebub. If you read Mark 3, for instance, 22 all the way 30, the Jews accused Jesus of casting out demons by Beelzebub, the prince of demons. Baal, that's the word Baal, Zebul, means Lord of the flies, Lord of the house. But the chief god that Satan used to get Israel to worship something or someone other than Jehovah, was Baal. In fact, Baal is simply Satan's disguise. Because if you go with what the Jews said in Mark 3, 22 to 30, if you go with the Jews, Beelzebub, Lord of the flies or Lord of the house, is the prince of demons. But the prince of demons would be Satan. So here, if the Jews are right, and Jesus didn't correct them, he didn't correct them saying, no, you're wrong, Beelzebub is not the prince of the demons, the ruler of demons. That means Beelzebub, Baal, is simply another name of Satan, because there's only one ruler of demons, Satan. He rules the kingdom of darkness. All evil spirits are subject to him. So if Beelzebub or Beelzebul is the ruler of demons, then that means that's another name for Satan. Now, if that's true, and the Bible indicates that's the case, Baal is simply Satan disguising himself as a god to lead people away from the worship of the true God. If that's true, Allah is simply another form, another name for Baal, and Islam is simply another form of Baal worship, then that actually further confirms Islam is the religion of the devil. It's Satan's religion that Satan inspired through Muhammad to be the competitor against Judeo-Christianity, Judaism, Christianity. And that would make sense, right? Because all throughout Old Testament history, the chief competitor to Yahweh, Yahovah, was Baal. Right now, as we speak, the chief competitor, the chief religion competing for the devotion of the hearts and minds of not just the world, but of Jews and Christians, is Islam. So it's like history repeating itself, as Solomon said in the book of Ecclesiastes.
Oh, he does have some good information. The only thing he's missing out is all these religions are pretty much Baal worship, in one form of another, or one form or another, even so-called Judaism, which is just a bastardization of the scriptures. So is Christianity. They've pretty much been all set up to lead you from the path. So brothers are always bringing this out, man. You know, you, we're supposed to be we're supposed to understand all things great and small. We're supposed to use the word and not abusing it. So we're supposed to know about these things, man. This is symbolic of a woman's private parts, man. And when you go into Baal worship, when you go into Baal and you know all of those paganisms, is pretty much the inversion and the perversion of everything. So instead of you worshiping the Most High, who's masculine in nature, you pretty much you worship women, which is why you have that goat head with the titties, the hermaphrodite, so called, that the image of Baal, which is pretty much a hermaphrodite. You know, even when you go into Christianity, right, it's pretty much female worship through the Mary the mother. You're worshiping who they call Jesus instead of the Most High. You worship Jesus, right? That we worship Yahweh through Yahweh Shai, but we know that Yahweh he's the big honcho, right? We use Yahweh Shai as a, and I mean that respectfully. We use Yahweh Shai as a lawyer, pretty much, and the Lord is the judge, and he's appointed Yahweh Shai pretty much as the solicitor and the judge. When he makes a judgment, Yahweh Shai has to mete out that judgment, but we also appease ourselves to Yahweh through Yahweh Shai. That's how the Lord is set up. But we understand that there's a distinct difference. We don't worship the Lord, and when I mean the Lord, I mean lowercase Lord rather than the Lord in full caps, which is the Most High Yahweh. We don't worship Yahweh Shai like he's Yahweh, which Christians do. They have you believing that Yahweh Shai was in the wilderness praying to himself, saying, "Father, please," if for lack of a bet, for roughly paraphrasing, if it suits you, me, please save me from me. Which is what they have you believing that Yahushua was doing. He was praying to the Lord, to who was himself, to save himself from himself. Which is idiotic, you know what I mean? If that's not a form of paganism, I don't know what is. Let's see if there's anything else I've forgotten. And this is who they call Hubal. But Satan has a way of reinventing himself over the period and over the centuries, and kind of the same thing these Edomites do. That they were known as a wicked in the earth, and they just reinvented themselves and wiped out all the history of themselves. So now they're pretending to be another group of people, even though they are the wicked, right? The same thing that Baal does. That's the most evil looking owl I've ever seen in my life, man. Salakia. Um, yeah, I'll just go back and just finish off. Uh, I'll just finish off here. It's that common Islamic flags and the symbolism. Crescent and star, the symbol often depicted in white on a green and red background, is widely recognized symbol of Islam, representing the Islamic faith. The crescent moon symbolizes the early phase of the moon and progress, while the star signifies the illumination with the light of knowledge. Now, anyone who's aware of Baal worship, who's aware of Freemasonry and all of this, how they call Lucifer the fallen star and all of that. I mean, they're pretty much telling you right there. Let's say Hubal was a moon god, and now you have the illumination, the so-called fallen star. I mean, it couldn't be more obvious, if you wrote it on a piece of paper and then slap somebody in the face with it, man. So we just end this. I'll just end this by going back to the scripture. This is Deuteronomy 28:64, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which and if you notice the gods here, this lowercase, these are demons. When gods are in lowercase, you're pretty much talking about demons, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Wood symbolic of Christianity, and stone symbolic of Islam. I'll put the link of that video in the description. If brothers want to go and watch it in full. It's a pretty edifying, informative video. Lord willing, this video was edifying. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, double honors to all the elders in Israel who were well, shalom to the elect.